So I was taking a nap one day. I just grabbed Reader's Digest from like 1975, and I was reading an article. I fell asleep like mid-sentence. I woke up like 20 minutes later, and the magazine was still there.
Right.
So I continued to read, and the sentence completed, but suddenly nothing made sense at all. So I backed up and I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't even right. This is a different article. So after that nap, I thought, oh, what if I like chopped up Reader's Digest and mid-sentence switched to another article? The challenge, of course, is to make the sentence make grammatical sense.
Right.
But it's not going to make any fucking sense because each one of these is coming from a different article. So that's what we're doing. We're reading my mashup Reader's Digest Mad Libs. Cool.
Sounds great.
Okay.
High five. I Am Joe's Throat from the September 1973 issue of Reader's Digest. My criminal career began when I was 10 years old and stole a bundle of
5 million barrels of oil a day. But it is the strategic keystone to the
medical center in San Antonio. Doctors told him the pains were caused by angina, a hardening of the arteries to the heart, and he was
beginning to realize that the animals are their biggest cash crop because they bring in the tourists who
are living it up but get caught. All that these females want is the right to say no after they have said yes. Another correspondent wrote, "For those of us who are unable to bear children, it's heartbreaking to see
emergency telephone service in all metropolitan areas and throughout the United States. A week later,
Black people sit in Congress. Blacks also sit on the Supreme Court, appeals court, district courts, customs court,
and grandparents were kicking up their heels. Dr. Kinsey's famous sex studies
sent him off to first grade. 2 months later, however, they were summoned for a consultation. Billy's a bright little boy, his teacher said, but he's a constant source of
appreciation for being an American, and that will make this a better, happier country to live in. There's enthusiasm everywhere."
they couldn't move. Pat heard the death gurgle of a woman to her right. Lisa was aware of a body on her left and shouts and screams. Both felt pains in their heads and
unsafe ingredients from food, drugs, cosmetics, clothing, children's toys, and other household products. In
secondary impotence. There is often a long period of successful sexual functioning before difficulties occur.
feeling that I was intruding. I went home and returned later in the day. I was coming over this morning but heard you talking to a guest, so I
just stand there and take it. That's what I'm doing now. But he was also busy preparing
miracles, yet Joe thinks of me simply as a short length of reddish garden hose connecting his nose and lungs, mouth and stomach. Usually he is
playing doctor with a young girl.
from the wreckage. They were at the bottom of a mountain of steel. If cranes were used to lift the mangled metal, the lifting movement could further injure all those trapped above them. The metal had to be cut, and
she began to experience a new and pleasing sense of spontaneity. Number 6, encourage your husband to be a social lion. For many a woman bored by household routine, the
tongue humps up, gives a push, and the food is on its way down. To prevent a cafe coronary every time Joe swallows, I have a special
legislative session. Specifically excluded are doctors, lawyers, policemen, firemen, clergymen, and
other children. It was already too late. As she tried to go upstairs, heat singed her hair. The smoke drove
tourists and was not stopped until a hunter put a bullet through its brain at a distance of 6 feet.
Our honeymoon was a nightmare. Phil tried so hard, but the more he worked at it, the less happened. Is it possible that sex ruins?
pain, he asked. They said yes. About 6 inches of space separated the torsos of the girls from the
20% increase in productivity. A typical shift begins at 6 a.m. with 2 meals provided, workers by the hospital, plus 2 coffee breaks. The lengthened day means employees can be
homeless flood victims in Holland. hitchhiked to Chicago, won an airline ticket to Amsterdam on a radio show, and joined relief workers in cleaning up a farming village.
Involving theft of construction equipment from large companies. The office can name the thieves, and
Schooling for the military personnel is to begin after the first 6 months of active duty, at which time the men
catch a whiff of chlorine from the pool and feel a kind of affront for the fishy old lake. But branching up from the parks in all directions are many of the
Surgical procedures that would be quite frightening to most people. Frankly, I'm as mystified by this as anyone else who has seen it.
One big discovery that everyone makes in meditating is that we have
Overall savings of around $1 million. With its obvious advantages, the 6-man jury still has determined enemies. Traditionalists say they fear
School youngsters attempting a graduation address. In a way, my vocal tract, the 7 inches from larynx to lips, performs much like a miniature
family on a vacation in Europe. In
fall, I asked my son if the high school students were wearing anything new. Well, he replied, a lot of fellows are showing up in a see-through mustache. Oh, Lordy.
a lot of the fellows are showing up in see-through mustaches. The fuck?
The see-through mustache! The fuck is a see-through mustache?
That was a good one.
Playing doctor with a young girl. Oh god. From the wreckage.
Cut.
Meow meow meow.